It's my last episode of the Locked On Knicks podcast, and we got lots of great stuff coming. Plenty of nostalgia, some questions from some of our peers, and one amazing kind of deep cut fan question that I can't wait to get to in segment one right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Alex Wolfe. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And regardless of my status with leaving Locked On Knicks, I will still be there. Maybe dusting off the pen, the keyboard, whatever this year. Maybe write a little bit. Maybe start a new podcast someday. I don't know, something like that. I'm still going to be there, though. Anyway, he's Gavin Schall. One last time, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster, favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. I know you've been silently trying to get away from that stupid moniker that I made up ages ago, but I refuse to let it go right up until the last episode. And today's episode is my final one doing Locked On Knicks, fittingly in the doldrums of the offseason so that I can do whatever I want, and they can't say a word about it. But I don't think I'm going to do anything too crazy. I'm just going to answer some great questions that we got from some of our peers in the Knicks space, and also a really good one from a fan to start things off, and then just some general reminiscing and some some goodbyes from Gavin and I. For now, it's like goodbye for now. It's not for. I'm going to come back and do guest spots sometimes, but this is my last time hosting it, which is a whole thing. But it would not be Locked On Knicks if I did not remind you that this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And it also would not be Locked On Knicks if I did not thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. Whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube, we appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit the auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. Just did my fastest one ever. All right, Gavin, I'll leave it to you. I think we've got some. Actually, no, screw it. I want to read one last mailbag question.
Please,
I have access.
You've earned it. Yeah.
I got to read this one. So, this is from from a friend on Twitter here who wants to know if I could just find it. Here it is. What is Alex's real favorite Built Bar? From Argentum Spectrum. At Argentum Spect R1 on Twitter. Longtime question asker for mailbags. What is my real favorite Built Bar? My actual answer for favorite flavor, it's a Built. I was about to say it's a Built Puff, but the Built Puffs are cool because they taste like marshmallow, or like they have the texture of a marshmallow, and they're pretty yummy. Like they like brownie batter one is pretty good. Dude, you guys don't understand how many freaking Built Bars I had in my house at one point. Like they would send it was a great partnership for a podcaster, to be completely honest. Sponsors should take notes from Built Bar because they sent us stuff like every 2 weeks practically. We got like a new little thing of Built Bars to the point where I had too many. I was like giving them away to like friends and family. I think actually my favorite was they had like a raspberry cheesecake one. And as a cheesecake guy, I really liked that one. But yeah, the amount of Built Bars I had to sell, man. I think we did a good job. I'm surprised they never renewed us, but maybe they just moved on to bigger and better things than podcast advertising and went to I know that they're at Costco now. Yeah. And people at my job love them. I'll go to Costco and pick stuff up for the office, and I'm always picking up Built Bars for people. So I don't know. Yeah, shout out to Built Bar. But those are my favorites. You have a favorite?
As a vegan, I don't know if I've had one before, but I've only heard good things.
Oh yeah, because they had gelatin. I forgot about that. Yeah, right.
I think they had dairy in them. I'm not sure, but they look good, and I was tempted a few times. So shout out to Built Bar. All right, our next question, not a voice one, but a written one from our buddy Jeff Rasmussen, co-host. I don't know if I mentioned XJ's credentials when we talked about in the first episode of the Hot Hand Theory. Check out the Hot Hand Theory podcast. They do fantastic work over there covering the New York Knicks and the NBA at large. And Jeff has two questions for you. The first one is Knicks related. What is your biggest concern for the Knicks in the upcoming season? Great question.
Yeah, I'll shout out Jeff too. I gotta give everybody their props if they're gonna take the time to ask me a question. But Jeff's the man. He's super smart. He came to me like more or less like cold called me to join Strickland and just like wanted to do something. And we started him off there like writing, and he writes really in-depth recaps, like just off the dome. He has great recall memory. Like him and Schwinn both have just phenomenal recall memory for like plays and moments in games and whatever, and schemes that were being run at certain times and whatever. And he's great at articulating it and also just at writing like really thoughtful, great pieces. And then, that is translated over to Hot Hand Theory, where they're absolutely crushing him and XJ. So, making us a little hot around the collar here. You know what I mean? But yeah, so my biggest concern for the coming season, I mean, it's real simple, dude. Like, I don't want to like mail in this answer or anything, but it is so phenomenally simple. It's just that the Mike Brown hire is not going to work out. Like that he's too much like Tibbs, that he doesn't accomplish enough new stuff. Now, for all intents and purposes, and by all accounts, he seems to be like a very collaborative guy. It seems like they took a lot of care in having an exhaustive assistant head coach search for him. And seems like if you read, what his other stops have been like, that he's very willing to like talk to people and listen and, take feedback and whatever, and not be rigid in how he coaches. But my biggest worry would just be that the firing Tibbs, that all the fanfare, all of it was for nothing, and they're just actually not good enough to win a championship. And maybe that is true, but I want to at least see, I want to see at least a step forward, like we all do. And that's why they made that move. And the scariest possible thing is that it doesn't work out. So that's definitely my biggest worry. Although I'll admit it's not one that I feel strongly that I'm justified in worrying so hard about. Like, I think that I'm probably being a little bit of a worrywart, but that's what the question was. So that's my answer. But I'm curious, what is your thing that you're most worried for?
Yeah, I mean, this is thanks, Jeff. This is a whole episode in September when it went off.
Thank that for next month, dude. Yeah, thank it.
Content king, Jeff, killer. Yeah, I think in my heart of hearts, I'm going to cheat and pick two, because I think one leads into the other. I think the surface level one is that Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns don't work together. And to be clear, I don't mean like don't work at all, because clearly they're very good results, right? The Knicks were the 3 seed. They made the Eastern Conference Finals. They were maybe one miracle comeback away from making the NBA Finals and putting a scare into the Oklahoma City Thunder. And yet a lot of the numbers from the playoffs scream that the Knicks were better when Cat and Brunson were not playing together. And I do think some of that is what we've talked about a million times. And it might be more of a reflection on scheme issues and also the people around them versus like just the inherent flaws of those two guys. But there is like, and I get defensive when national people say this, but there is some merit to the idea that it is hard to win a championship when you have two guys who are positionally at least on in a championship context, like two of the worst defenders, like on contenders at their respective positions, playing close to 40 minutes a game in the NBA, right? And like that is a lot to overcome. And if the Knicks don't make the right lineup decisions, if they don't lean into being what I think they should be, which is one of the best offenses in NBA history, it's very plausible that those two don't work out together. And that leads into my part two, which I think is about Mikal Bridges and just the idea that when they went out and got him, it was, look, it's going to be incredibly difficult to make Cat and Brunson work. We have two of the 10 best wing defenders in the NBA to make their lives as easy as humanly possible. OG Anunoby defensively, even if there were some weak stretches by his standard over the course of the year, held up his end of the bargain. I don't think Mikal came close to holding up his end of the bargain in the regular season. In the playoffs, first two rounds, he was much closer to that. I would say he was 90% of the way there against the Boston Celtics, against the Detroit Pistons. And then he got exposed again because he was used on the ball and was really just, he's not that level of screen navigator anymore. And I wonder if another offseason, maybe a little bit less pressure, maybe less minutes. I'm hoping less minutes. He ran the most miles of anyone in the NBA by far last season. I think played the most total minutes by far of anyone in the NBA last season. With a little bit less workload, with a little bit more time off the ball, can he be closer to the defender he was on the Suns? can he get a shot back and be closer to the offensive player he was at times on the Nets? Because if he's the best version of himself, I think I have far less concerns about Brunson and Cat being an accessible duo and a functional duo against the best teams in the NBA.
Yeah, I think there are plenty of things to worry about, honestly, but plenty of things to just be assured about and happy about too, which is just that we get to worry about high level concerns like, is this team good enough to win a championship? But I believe you said that Jeff had a second question as well?
He did, and we're going to get into it right after the break here on Locked On Knicks. But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorizations of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. This is what I love about Monarch Money. I'm someone who has never been particularly financially organized. I don't think I've been very cognizant of how I'm investing my money or how I'm allowing it to grow passively, which when you're a full-time podcaster is actually a very, very important thing to do. And because of that, it's incredibly useful to have Monarch Money and realize like the inefficiencies, just like I talk about the inefficiencies of the Knicks lineups, the inefficiencies in how I'm dispersing my money, how I can have one collective game plan for how I'm trying to create a better future for myself. And that is incredibly important, maybe now more than ever, for your financial security. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. All right, what's up, guys? We are back on Locked On Knicks. We got one more question from our buddy Jeff. This one, first one was logical. This one's emotional. What will you miss most about co-hosting Locked On Knicks besides Gavin? He took you off the hot seat with that one. What will you miss most about co-hosting Locked On Knicks?
Without the qualifier, I still would have said just getting to hang with my bud Gavin every day. It's we have our moments. We've both had plenty of days where we've been like, I don't want to do this today, whatever. But we always figure it out in the end. We always have a good time. So that I'll definitely miss that. It's not like I have to give it up forever. I can just come back for free every once in a while,
of course,
and still get these takes off. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think this is so like kind of stupid and vain to say, but I did always love like the rush, like the hit of like people appreciating something that we did, getting praise for it or whatever, like, just being told good job.
Good boy. Who's a good boy?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was nice, it was nice when we would do something. I guess really the thing is like doing something that resonates with people, getting comments to say like, I appreciate how you looked at that or whatever. Like, I think one thing that came with, I sort of, I mean, this is like a little too life story, but I became weary with sports social media after a while, and I mostly exited like Twitter and stuff and like online discourse because I found it to be very toxic and very stressful to me personally. I don't like getting into arguments. I'm very non-confrontational. So when everyone is always looking for an argument, that would kind of get under my skin. And yet weirdly, once we hit YouTube and started getting like YouTube comments and stuff, I was willing to embrace it every once in a while, be a little more willing to just like put the keyboard down sometimes. So the good and the bad comments were fun. I don't know. I liked the fact that we were able to reach out towards people and occasionally make something that would touch them, so that was cool. Yeah, I don't know. That's very like broad strokes of what I'll miss about it. Other than that, I was just kind of very lucky to end up getting this and having it turn into something. And that's not to say that we lucked into it turning into something, because quite frankly, we busted our asses to get this thing to where it is now. We put in tons and tons of hours through no fault of their own. It was just growing pains, like almost no money. when we were starting this thing, working for pennies on the dollar, like for what our time should have been worth. And yet we helped David Locke and Locked On build something just by our contribution. We built our own thing, something that we could feel like was ours. And I think that's probably the toughest, if you want to talk about like also, I guess, like tough things to leave behind. It's that I'm looking back on this whole thing and being like, I actually like, I mean, it's not like I don't have anything else like this in my life. Like I have Strickland too, which I've helped build with all of my friends there, but it's tough to like, dump a fifth of your life into something and then walk away from it voluntarily and be like, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
Even though the work's not done. Like, so that's that that was such an innocent question from Jeff that got super existential, but I think that's where I sit now of just being like, it's tough to put it down, but sometimes you just have to be willing to say that you've done a good job and like take that last YouTube comment in the sky of like, you did good, man. Like, this is cool. And just be like, you know what? I think I did good enough. And I think I'm ready to, be done with it. But that's what I'm going to miss most is just, I don't know, the thrill of building something, of resonating with people, of doing something that people actually like and enjoy. Which again, I get plenty of in other aspects of my day job and my Strickland work. But this was, I don't know, because it was just the two of us. This was always something that felt very distinctly like that I was sharing with just one other person, and that we built it pretty much from, not to discredit what James and Jared did, obviously, to start things off, but we've put in, I don't know, 85% of the overall time that has ever been spent on Locked On Knicks airwaves, or more. And so that's going to be kind of hard to walk away from in the end.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I've talked about it since the beginning. But we used to, I mean, we can still see that on our current site, but we used to just like, it was on the front page, the reports of like all the people in different countries that would listen, and just occasionally getting an email. Like, I think there was a fan in Scotland, I want to say, but just like, hey, like I listened to you guys on the Metro on a different continent, and just that feeling of like, whoa, and seeing people in Australia listen to us, some people in Africa listen to us, some people in South America listen to us is like, I mean, we get Paul commenting on every episode from Brazil. Shout out to you, Paul. One of our favorites. Is just like kind of a pinch yourself thing, and it's this weird. I'm gonna bad with words right now. Weird thing we all take for granted, but like 100 years ago, or maybe 50 years ago, like unless you worked for like ABC, NBC, CBS, like that wasn't really possible. I guess you could write a book, but for people to hear your voice in another country, and for you to have, again, like toxic term possibly, but like a little bit of like a parasocial relationship with people across the world. And it's only, I'm not bragging here, it's happened maybe 3 times in my 7 years, but like the few times like people have come up and say like, hey, I listened to the show, and just like running into someone in public. Like I think I told one time, shout out to our friend Adrian Chatham, like when I was seeing the Batman, like I had someone sit next to me, be like, oh, like I heard my voice, like, oh, you're Locked On Knicks, or like shooting around in a basketball court and meeting someone who's listened. And like, that's just like, it's just amazing. Like it is a really, really cool feeling. And it is such a finite, small form of quote unquote celebrity. But, and I think maybe similar to the YouTube comments of like a small level of feedback where like Taylor Swift puts out an album and 1 billion comments, but it still hits, and it's still cool. So shout out to all of you guys for keeping our dopamine high all these years. We got another basketball question to wrap up the second segment from our buddy Ariel. He wants to know, what's Alex's favorite individual Knicks performance of all time?
Oh, man.
I should say also Ariel Pacheco, who, like everyone else we talked about, one of my all-time favorite guests on the show. I say it every time he comes on, but so like rare person I can say that just makes you happier talking to him, and is also just a brilliant basketball analyst. So shout out to him. He does great work, and everyone should check him out on Twitter over at Pacheco NBA.
Yeah, Ariel, the silent assassin, always comes on here and has like the most like muted demeanor, but says the coolest stuff. I love Ariel. Thanks to him so much, like for he was one of those guys that we've always been able to count on to like step up if we need like
Mm-hmm.
an emergency guest or an emergency co-host or whatever. We can like, even when he's been like less active on Twitter and whatever, like, and you know, less like involved in the space or whatever, he'll always pick up the phone. Like he's such a good dude. He's the man. But favorite individual performance, I've got a weird one and then like a sensible one. My weird one is this is the deep cut for anyone who's listened closely over the years. Tracy McGrady's first game with the Knicks was one of the most excited I've ever been as a Knicks fan. Like, I don't know, that one just like to me, it was so cool because he was my favorite player like all through my teenage years, and he got traded to the Knicks and I was so excited. And I know that it was just he was literally a salary dump. Like he existed to create cap space for LeBron, but I was literally like in my head after that first game, I had these delusions of grandeur being like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. Him and LeBron are going to team up on the Knicks next year and they're going to like run things. And like my two favorite players at the moment are going to be on my team and blah, blah, blah. And obviously none of that happened. He was gone in half a season and all that good stuff. But I think that's my favorite weird memory. My favorite overall memory, I mean, that's tough to say. I mean, I think it's probably got to be a Brunson one, probably a best, not favorite memory, but like favorite individual performance, probably a Brunson game. I mean, the 61 was cool. It wasn't a loss against the Spurs, and I remember feeling immediately like, man, that was kind of a bummer. Like he scored all those points and they still lost. I know that when we did that episode, I was like, well, at least in like 20 years, we'll look back on this as a footnote of like, well, yeah, I mean, they lost, but like at least we got to see like one of the formative moments of Wemby's career if he ends up like the GOAT. But still too fresh for me. So I don't know if it's that one. I think it's got to be the game winner. Like no matter the game or series that he had prior to it, the game winner to ice the Detroit series this year was insanity. One and I mean, it's not an individual performance, but I've never been more bamboozled than after game 2 versus the Celtics this year too. I remember I was with my friend Matt and I walked we went to a bar. It was me and Matt and Schwinn and Zach. It was just a few of us from the Strickland went there. And I remember just walking out of the bar and like me and Matt were walking towards the train and I was like, I can't believe they won that game. I literally was so dumbfounded. I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to talk about this later. Like, this is like, and then I recorded like one of my most like sappy, like just, I don't know, like Knicks fans aren't supposed to get to feel this way type episodes after that when I got home. And it was, that one was cool. So that was an overall team performance, but that's my other vote. A lot of them happened this year. Again, you know, as much as I talked on last show about how hard this playoffs was for me, like from like a mental health perspective, like the highs were really freaking high. So those were probably my two favorites other than the McGrady game.
Yeah, I'll say honorable mention to like everything that Mitchell Robinson did against the Cavs in 23 and like his game 6 against the Celtics, his like really almost every game against the Pacers. Just like he was our guy. He was the only like somehow he lasted your entire tenure on this podcast, and to see him emerge and like get those triumphant moments is just incredible and so deserved for him, like fighting through a million different injuries. Jalen's game 4 against Boston, I just think is the best performance I've ever seen from a Knick, like 18.7 assists in that third quarter. Just a total masterclass against two of the great perimeter defenders of this era, right? In Drew Holiday and Derek White, and then a whole team of elite defenders, and they just had zero answer. And this team that like at times made Brunson look like physically small and overwhelmed, and just convinced you that there was a ceiling on him and there was a ceiling on the Knicks when he was their best player. And for him to just say, nah, screw that, and punch right through it and kick their butts was amazing. The other one I'll shout out was Emmanuel Quickly's, I want to say 30-piece against Portland, where he was going back and forth against Dame down the stretch. And I remember you and I going on the pod after, and to be fair, we've been wrong before, but we were both kind of the same take, like, Jesus Christ, the Knicks did it again. They absolutely have something in this guy. That was special, and just like the swagger, the shot making. Final one, note of optimism for my note of pessimism earlier. Mikal Bridges on Christmas Day this year against the Spurs, just another insane display of shot making. Beat Wemby down the stretch, won the Knicks a big time game. That was really cool. When we come back, one more question from a buddy from Andrew Claudio, a shout out from our buddy DJ Zullo, and then you and I will say goodbye. We'll wrap up your tenure on Locked On Knicks in this episode of Locked On Knicks. But first, we wanted to remind you we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners, make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks so much for helping us out. All right. Final segment together as full-time hosts. Jesus. Wow, that really hits. All right.
Quick, huh?
Yeah, too quick, man. All right. We got a question from GMAC himself, GMAC, Andrew Claudio, the mind behind Knicks Film School. What do you have for us, Andrew?
Alex, my man, GMAC, Andrew Claudio from Knicks Film School here. I wish you the very best going forward, whatever's next for you after Locked On Knicks. My question for you, of all the players throughout all of your Knicks content creation that you've discussed, analyzed, projected, who were you the most wrong about? Whether it's a player that has become so much better than you expected or become so much worse than you thought they were going to be. Who's that one player that you're always going to look at and be like, man, I was so wrong about them? Hope all is well, brother.
Oh, boy. Oh, this is a tough one, man, because I don't want to have to disparage this guy, dude, but it's Frank Ntilikina, man. I'm so sorry. I have to whisper that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Frank. I wanted it to work. I talk myself into Frank Ntilikina every possible way. And gun to my head, if you ask me if they should sign him with the final veteran roster spot this year, I'd be like, do it. Take another chance. Let's see if it works this time, man.
Ready to be hurt again.
He's had some time overseas. He played on that team in Greece or whatever, where they'd light the stands on fire and whatever. Yeah. It looked awesome. I don't know. They play outdoors, which is sick. I don't know. Maybe he went over there and that he's better. I don't know. It's Frank, dude. And it pains me so much to say so. I really thought it was going to work out when he moved, when Fizdale of all people put him at small forward for 2 games or whatever it was. I was like, yeah, that's going to be it. This is it. He's just a wing. He's a wing. He's a 3-and-D wing, obviously.
How did we not see it?
He's going to be the best passing 3-and-D wing in the league in a year. And then that didn't work out. And then I will say he never really did quite get a fair shake to just make mistakes, which I think was maybe the biggest failure of the Knicks to him, of they never just kind of turned him loose and were just be the point guard for a whole season. And you can make your mistakes. We're not going to make you fear for your life with Trey Burke behind you or whatever. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the guy I was most wrong about, as far as being wrong about how good he could be and him actually not being good. I don't know who I've underestimated that's turned out better. I feel like I was always the homer of the duo here. That was always just they're all awesome and this is gonna work out. He's great. Although I will say, another one that I was high on when they got him, I was high on Knox, and that didn't work out either. So I think just my eternal optimism was always my downfall when it comes to this show. So I think that's my main thing. There was nobody I was ever like that outperformed my expectations because I always set too high expectations anyway. So it's I think that's it. Even like Brunson, I know a lot of people were like, oh, maybe he'll be all right, I guess. And a lot of people were convinced that $25 million was like way too much money for him. Even with him, I was like, he's going to be great. And like, if he's anything like what he was in the playoffs, they just got like the steal of the century. And then, hey, that one worked out pretty good for me. So I guess we'll go with that.
Yeah, well, end on a win for you. I'll keep this quick. First week on the show, you were getting married, so we did not get to record our first episode. Incredible timing. And then I had our buddy Jonathan Macri on, and we did an episode that was what are the odds that everyone on the current Knicks roster will eventually be an all-star? And I said, I think 50% for Kevin Knox. So I can just leave that out there in the ether. He did not, for those of you who have not followed up on his career, he did not become an all-star despite a tantalizing mix of size, shooting, and athleticism that anyone could have mistaken for a future Hall of Famer. All right, let's head over to DJ Zullo, because he did not, unless I missed it in there, I don't think he asked a question, but he sent a very nice 90 seconds on what your time on the show meant to him.
Hey, Alex, congratulations on an amazing run with Locked On Knicks. You have always been one of the most important voices covering the Knicks. I know from my perspective, I always viewed you as someone that was very even-keeled and never wavered in sharing your opinion, but you did it in a way that was always balanced and really analytical. And I always appreciated that about you, and tried to emulate that on what I do. You really inspired me a few years ago to get into this Knicks content creation world and to keep trying to carve my own way here. You were really one of the more influential figures for me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So thank you again for all the time and dedication in trying to make Locked On Knicks a success, and hope you have a great run and a fulfilling run on whatever else you do going forward. But thanks again. Congratulations on many years of success, and hope to hear from you soon again. You're an important voice on these Knicks, and it's going to be a void with you now doing other things, but hope to hear from you again soon. Good luck and Godspeed. Take care.
Damn, that was really sweet, man. I don't deserve that. That was damn, man. I was keeping it together. That was really nice. What the hell?
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's also hilarious because I actually don't know if we ever he's come on this show so many times, but it was always that he was coming on because I had to miss an episode or whatever. Yeah. So you would have him on. That's crazy, bro. I gotta come on. We gotta do a 3-person episode now. That's way too nice of a note for me to have never been on this show with him. That's freaking crazy.
DJ, also, we should do that. I didn't say it before. We said it for everyone. One of the single best people covering the Knicks. Check him out. Knicks Film School Patreon. Knicks Film School breakdowns really often. I don't think they're, to his credit, he's very modest. He wouldn't say this. I don't think there is a harder working guy covering this team and somebody who spends more time breaking down the film and like doing their best to figure out, like, without any level of preconceived bias, which I can not say for myself, doesn't occasionally leak in there, like what is actually going on with this team. So he's great. And that was really nice. That's really cool. And I also thought it was funny because I don't think you guys have ever been on an episode together, but obviously he's listened and he's really appreciated what you've done.
Yeah, it's gonna change at some point. We'll do something. We'll work that out. That's crazy, bro. It's crazy because you don't know that until people say something like that, and then you go, "You're full of," I can't say it because we don't curse on here, but you're full of it, man, bro. You're so good at what you do. He's really, he understands the game at a way higher level than I could ever hope to. Like, I've always been honest about that. I'm not much of an X's and O's guy. I'd just learned what horns was this year. Like, whatever. I'm not a film dude, I just have takes and I present them confidently, I guess. So, or sometimes not confidently, but either way.
Part of the
yeah, that was really nice from DJ though. That was a really sweet message. I was that one caught me. I felt like I knew what to expect from every other message. I did not expect that. That was really nice.
All right, guys. Alex and I went a little bit long on saying goodbye to each other, so I'm going to spin it off into a part 3. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the possibility of Malik Beasley because we've not previously touched on that this week. So be on the lookout for another episode. I haven't quite decided yet, either later today or tomorrow morning. But until then, be good, and we'll talk to you very, very soon on Locked On Knicks.